Mayo Experience.
Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog, live with Jake and Ian for the Week 9 Fantasy Football Rankings by position and your questions. You want to ask a question? You dump it in the chat. We're here live every single Tuesday at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Or if you got questions after the fact, dump them down into the comment section. You want to ask a question, you got to be subbed to Mayo Media Network. So do that now. Thank you. Smash a like while you're here as well. It's not really Jake Ciely we have on the line, though, is it, Ian?
No, I was saying before the show, not sure how I'm going to win an argument today looking at Jake, but kudos to the man for going all in here.
Darkwing Duck, your rankings come out at midnight tonight?
Yes, they do. I am the rankings. I can't do it. I wish I could. I wish I could do the voice. I can't.
How hot is that costume?
It's actually not too bad. Like mostly because I don't have the gloves on. The furry like texture gloves are over there, and with the boots and the pants are going to be bad. The pants are the full feather pants. Fortunately, I can breathe a little bit.
Hopefully it's like kind of chilly on Halloween, which I'm going to guess that it is on Friday, or else you're just going to be sweating the entire time walking.
No, fortunately, like we've had that before in Virginia. We've had a few, I'd say over the past 10, 15 years, we've had 2 Halloweens where it's like 80 degrees. Fortunately, it's going to be low 60s. So we are good to go, and I'm ready to roll out in this. You'll appreciate the fact, Pat, that my 6-year-old niece will be dressed as Rumi, which I know you know that name.
Yep. Sure do. And Ian, in Ohio, what's the temperature like on Halloween? Because it's not freezing here, but it's not warm here either. It's been ever since I moved back here the past 3 years, it's been raining on Halloween, which is no fun.
Yeah, we didn't get much of a fall this year, unfortunately. I feel like I went from scorching hot, long summer to now, I can see my breath in the morning, and snow is probably going to be on the way. So not the best weather arrangement. I think we have it's one of those leap days, or not leap days. Time's falling back this weekend. Daylight savings time, that's what I was going for. It is week 9, so maybe that'll change things.
All right, well, let's jump into the rankings for week number 9 after coming off by-mageddon. We got some injuries at running back. Scadaboo out for the season. Poor guy, Jake. Ankle turned the wrong way. It was disgusting.
It was disgusting. Fortunately for him, fortunately for him, it's like Dak Prescott's injury, so they expect him out there for week 1 in 2026. But yeah, kind of like the heart and the soul of that team so far, too.
Alvin Kamara exited the game very late in week number 8, so we'll see what he's going to do throughout the week. Ditto for Saquon Barkley. Looked like he could have come back in, but they were up by so much against the Giants. But keep an eye on that sort of thing. But they're on bye week, so he should be good for week number 9. Ditto for Quinshawn Judkins, that he left the game. They had the bye week, come back in week 9. We'll see where we are. Bucky Irving did not play. He could be good to go. Hassan Haskins did not play for the Chargers. We got a lot of Jared Patterson in that game after Vidal, but he could be back this week too. And Ian, we'll start with you because these are your rankings, which people can just follow along with if they want to, up on the screen, or click the link down in the description to get all of Ian's stuff over at fantasylife.com. Michael Carter has been released. So Bam Knight, Trey Benson coming back soon. What's going on here?
Yeah, it's one of these things where just given kind of nature of Michael Carter and just his status as a practice squad player for a lot of the year, I wouldn't completely assume he's out of the picture here, but could be a sign Trey Benson is back, could be a sign Trey is going down. So obviously not ideal. We saw them kind of take away his starting job and give it to Bam Knight already. So I think it was fine to be excited about Bam Knight over Michael Carter. Again, as we sit here on Tuesday, though, wouldn't completely assume he's out of the picture. But obviously dream matchup. I mean, if we can play fantasy dudes against the Bengals or the Cowboys, we are very, very excited. So gets that matchup in Jerry World, where, lest we forget, guys, Kyler Murray undefeated lifetime. So we'll see if he can keep that streak going.
How many games does that include?
9. High school, college, and now he's got the 2 in the NFL. So nearly getting the double digits at this point.
Well, fortunately, he's playing a high school defense this week for the Cowboys, so it should be 10-0. I guess we'll see on that. But we don't have any of the running backs ranked very highly from the Cardinals this week. Once we get a better idea of that, maybe some dudes will jump up. But McCaffrey comes in at number 1. You stop me when we need to be stopped of guys you may or may not be playing. CMC, Taylor, Henry, Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs. Those are the 5. Josh Jacobs, James Cook, Devin Achane, Javonte Williams, Kyron Williams, DeAndre Swift, Genty, Vidal, Chase Brown, Alvin Kamara, Travis Etienne, Jalen Warren, J.K. Dobbins, Tyrone Tracy filling in for Cam Scatterbo, likely for the rest of the season, unless Devin Singletary takes his job. Isaiah Pacheco, Ian, got banged up on Monday night. What do we expect to see from him against Buffalo this week, do you think?
Seemed like he was okay enough on the sideline. I actually saw Dr. Jeff Mueller. Is a great follow on Twitter. Actually one of these doctors who just tries to earnestly do a good job, unlike all of them out there. I'm sure you guys can put that one together. But again, just seemed like it was a situation where they were wondering MCL, ACL, God forbid, but he was jumping up on the sidelines. Seemed like he's okay. But yeah, Kareem Hunt going to continue to be, his kind of best impression of Zach Charbonnet, just ruining things for Pacheco. Obviously got Brashard Smith doing his thing on pass downs as well. So might bump Pacheco down a few spots. That is about the range where I think we start to go ahead and get outside that circle of trust. Again, Ramondre Stevenson, I would say put him ahead of Pacheco, include him in there, because just again, with Travion Henderson continuing to mostly live in that doghouse, we can be projecting 15 or 20 or so touches for Stevenson, but sledding's been tough for him all season long. So honestly, if you wanted to go up as high as that Etienne, Warren, Dobbins tier, where all of a sudden they don't become must starts, I think that'd be reasonable as well.
Jake, what's going on with Josh Jacobs? I know he had the calf injury 2 weeks ago, and he was in like a split, not necessarily a committee. He was getting the goal line touches, but Emmanuel Wilson was working his way in. We saw a lot of that last week in the Sunday night game as well. Was that score dependent, or do you think they're just limiting the amount of miles on a bad calf Josh Jacobs right now?
I'd say both, honestly, is that it was score dependent, but also because Ian's just laughing. If the fact is, like, Jacobs has, as you said, he's been dealing with an injury for multiple weeks, even through their bye. So you would say any chance you get where you don't have to run Jacobs, you throw in Emmanuel Wilson. The biggest thing that this tells us is we were wondering how much Chris Brooks would be involved. Chris Brooks would still start, like, they're not going to give Emmanuel Wilson 95% of the snaps if anything were to happen to Jacobs. But if you need running back depth, if you're stashing running backs and things are thin, Emmanuel Wilson's the clear option. I think where he has Jacobs is completely fine, though, because, maybe he's not going to be 100% for the entire year, but unless it's a blowout, you don't have to worry. Either way, you don't have to worry about him coming off the field.
David Montgomery is at number 23, Ian. We spoke last week. When does Brian Flores' defense start to turn the other way? That all of a sudden it's crap. Now, last Thursday night wasn't very good, and they got ran all over by a team that, yes, did have Joe Alt back, but did that make that big of a difference that all of a sudden they couldn't stop the run?
I mean, that kind of has been the problem all year. I will say when you look at some of the best defenses in the NFL, almost all of them are better against the pass than the run. It's just easier in the course of a scheme to go ahead and just devote more resources to your front seven, as opposed to all of a sudden becoming good at slowing down, opposing passing attacks. It is 2025 after all. But with Montgomery, again, it's a situation where we have seen more of the backfield work slide over to Jahmyr Gibbs, but really he has made the most out of his opportunities all year long. So I do think it's a situation with J.J. McCarthy coming back where, yeah, we could see the Lions get to play and build with a lead. Obviously will be, more so ideal game script for Montgomery compared to maybe what he's seen over these past few weeks against Vita Vea and then some tougher matchups.
So after 20, Pacheco's at 20, Ramondre's at 21, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, number 22. Jake, is this just going to be, you hope to pick the right week, that he's going to be technically the lead in the backfield, but sometimes that just might not mean anything?
I think it just more so means it doesn't mean anything with all three of them out there, and it's just a full-blown committee. You're talking about Krosky-Merritt, I'm assuming, and just going against the Seattle defense, which is getting healthier, but the one thing that they weren't lacking when they weren't healthy was still having that front, which gets pass rush and also decent against the run. And I know maybe this is one of those situations where Ian might change something after Monday Night Football, which you can throw back to him. But Rico Dowdle and Aaron Jones would leapfrog Merritt and basically – I can see David Montgomery being in that same conversation, but I almost feel better about them both than Isaiah Pacheco at this point, because even when healthy, Isaiah Pacheco keeps losing the goal line touches to Kareem Hunt, which is just another committee. So at least they're in splits. And the one thing, and I know we haven't talked about Aaron Jones yet, and that game was just completely miserable for the Vikings. You kind of almost throw that one out. But Aaron Jones started the game, which was interesting. And if Aaron Jones is going to get 50% of the workload, similar to the Panthers backfield, he's also got the passing game upside. So I feel better about Dowdle and Jones in that facet, and I would put them up. Again, like if you want to go Pacheco against the Bills and hope for a blowout, I'm not going to fault you there, but they would kind of be more there right after Tracy than probably ahead of Walker and definitely ahead of Krosky-Merritt. Krosky-Merritt's the big one I would push down right now.
Yeah, what do you make of that, Ian? Like, after watching the Monday night game, would you move him down, or are you still pretty good with that, him being a low-end running back too in week 9?
I think a few spots right there to kind of that Woody Marks territory also, could make sense. Again, Jerry McNichols really making the most out of his pass game opportunities. Didn't see too much Chris Rodriguez out there. I think more than anything, it was just kind of a bad game script for Washington. Obviously, Chiefs, were up multiple touchdowns for most of that second half. So when you do start to, again, look ahead and see what the Commanders are dealing with this week, as Jake said, not the world's easiest matchup against the Seahawks. So if you want to go ahead and just, play the matchup and game script game, bump some of those other guys up, I am cool with that. Honestly, though, it's just one of these situations where 2 weeks before, man, Bears and the Cowboys, like those should have been absolute smash spots for Bill Krosky-Merritt. So I know earlier in the year, like he was leading the NFL in yards per carry during those first 4 or 5 weeks. Looked every bit as good as everyone was hyping up throughout August. It has been several down weeks, though. So unfortunate. Again, totally get moving some of those other guys up. I hope, though, guys, Rico Dowdle could honestly this time next week be a big time jump. Wondering what you guys are thinking. Again, some of those Dave Canales comments. I know it's just coach speak, but it seemed like it was actually trending towards them actually trusting Rico more so over Chuba. Maybe problem is that half their offensive line is banged up now.
Yeah, and they're at Green Bay this week too, Darkwing. That could be somewhat problematic. Because one thing I really did, I figured, like with the amount of pressure that Green Bay brings, I would have thought pass catching backs, both Gainwell and Warren on Sunday night, would have done more damage through the air. Those guys didn't do anything.
No, but Warren had a decent day on the ground. It's definitely concerning as a matchup. Like, oh, it's not one of the best matchups. It's definitely a poor one. But what Ian said is like the one thing that Canales has been in, like, I don't know, the Coach Speak Index account a lot of people follow, but Canales is pretty honest. And I don't want to say 100% honest, but he's pretty truthful when it comes to like what he's planning for his usage to be. You can kind of like read through his tea leaves pretty easy. So it does sound like we might get more Dowdle. And in that case, the way that he's been, I mean, that was 2 weeks in a row. He's basically averaged twice as many yards per carry and per touch period. So Dowdle in this conversation, like I said, that's why I brought him up with, I would play him over Krosky-Merritt because at least in a 50-50, I don't have a third person involved. That's basically what it comes down to. So both being difficult matchups, I know it's 50-50 with the potential for Dowdle to lead. But I wouldn't I would actually play just Jones in front of him because, again, the matchups are a little bit better. I'm not that scared of the Vikings defense at this point. But that's really what it comes down to is it's 2 versus 3. And when it's 2 versus 3, I'll just default to not having a third person involved.
Are you guys certain that it is going to be Aaron Jones over Jordan Mason, or was it just a game script where Jordan Mason, like, hey, we're down 20 points. This is not a Jordan Mason game script. Or do you see the game against Detroit, Ian, and be like, well, it's probably going to be the same game script?
Lions, I'll tell you what, I mean, they've been stout against the run all season long. The way to attack them is against that banged up secondary. I just don't know if the Vikings are going to be wanting to do that with JJ McCarthy. We really have seen KOC deploy a pass heavy offense, regardless of who is quarterback, except JJ McCarthy. This was the league's second most run heavy offense during the first 2 weeks of the season in terms of drop back rate over expected, even though they were basically getting killed the first 3 quarters against the Bears, and then they were down against the Falcons for most of week 2 as well. So problematic. I don't think we have the same touchdown upside for either running back that we're used to seeing out of a Vikings offense. So I think it'll be split. I would expect Jordan Mason to lead the way more so in rush attempts during any given week. Not going to be completely dominating it. And then Aaron Jones more so the pass down back. So usually in those situations, I just give the slight lean towards Aaron Jones. But yeah, it's a messy 2-back committee right now. And that's why now the guy's in the top 24.
Jake, if we don't know what's going on in Arizona, I know we talked through this a little bit, but let's say Michael Carter isn't reactivated. We know that DeMarcado was out beforehand. We know that Trey Benson's... Is Trey Benson active to come off IR? Is that what this is all about? Because...
No, two more weeks.
More weeks.
He's got... Yeah, it's week 10.
So where would you elevate Bam Knight up to here? Let's say if that we know for sure he's the lead without Carter taking away 40% of the work that he gets, 65, 70% of the work against the Cowboys this week. Is he a top 20 option? Like, is he better than Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt?
Honestly, if this stays as it is today, where it's Bam Knight and one running back behind him active against the Cowboys, you could make, and I probably would make the argument that I would start him over at Alvin Kamara at this point. That's how far I would go.
Well, we do have this Alvin Kamara injury.
That's why, yeah, that he's not 100%. That Kamara is not seeing that much of an uptick. They did increase Devin Neal's usage. By the way, I laugh at the fact that I don't even fit in the split screen for the 3 of us. Like, it carries over to both sides.
It's a big hat, Jake. Big hat. It's big hat. It's
big
funny.
cheeks.
Big hat.
Sorry to cut you off, but go ahead.
But Ian, with the New Orleans situation, like how much would you boost up? What is it, Neal? That's the guy? Keep on
I guess, man. But
Yeah.
honestly, I wouldn't be that surprised if Taysom Hill just ends up, doing Taysom Hill things, getting a lot more work. Honestly, guys, if you are in some of these just, again, deeper leagues, you have 20 total roster spots. I feel like we're an Alvin Kamara injury away from seeing, again, what we say last 2 weeks, the Taysom Hill package growing even bigger, fellas. So we'll see what goes on there. But they continue to insist on using the guy, independent of who's actually calling plays. I don't really get it. I don't think 35-year-old Taysom Hill coming off a major knee surgery is honestly even that good anymore. But hey, matters what the Saints are thinking, and we have still seen them deploy his usual bullshit out there. So again, no Kamara. I do wonder if the actual answer is Taysom Hill. And to the dude's credit, we've seen him blow up as a tight end, being used as a running back or quarterback in the past. Wouldn't be shocked if we get at least one of those down the stretch again.
Can you tell me about your new fabricated stat, by the way, the cool shit stat?
Yeah, I've kind of messed around with it before. I called it playmaker rate, but I was feeling spicy this morning. So cool shit. I just made it up this morning for the most part. It's an RB's total touchdowns, explosive plays, and tackles avoided divided by their total opportunities, carries, and targets. I did double count, which I think is fair. If Saquon busts a 60-yard touchdown and breaks 3 tackles, that's worth 5 points instead of just 1 point. Top 3 running backs on the season in terms of the percentage: Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, and Kenneth Walker. So you see guys like Bucky Irving up towards the top as well. Unfortunately, the guys producing the least amount of cool shit on the season: Dylan Sampson, Derrick Henry, Chuba Hubbard, Isaiah Pacheco, and Kareem Hunt. Kyron Williams also below 20%. So I think, it kind of matches the eye test, which is the goal for all these stats at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I do. But okay, so you still have Derrick Henry at number 3 this week. I get it. It's against Miami, but Chicago is supposed to be a great matchup for him. I know, as someone who bet the over on him, it didn't come through. He fell like 20 yards short of that number on 22 carries. Like, those guys can't tackle. Now, I get Miami can't tackle either. And Lamar should be back, theoretically be back in week number 9. And maybe that was a big problem in limiting the amount of space and opportunity that he had to actually run. But he does seem like a different guy right now, Ian.
Yeah, I mean, he still found the end zone twice, but before that, he was averaging, 5 yards per carry still going to their bye. So I hear you. We haven't been getting those 60, 70-yard monster runs, but we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, kind of as this sort of a buy low idea for Derrick Henry. Their entire second half schedule, I think Jake was saying they're favored in every single game, and it's a mixture of either good matchups against run defenses, or they're playing teams that they're going to be, again, favored by likely a touchdown plus. So really is looking like good game script. And Pat, if you do look at the career numbers for Derrick Henry, his yards per carry as the months go on and it gets colder and colder out there, they go up like clockwork, man. So winter is coming, and I think Derrick Henry's ready for it.
Jake, question for you. Should I trade Rico Dowdle for Jared Goff? Currently have Jaden Daniels, but with his injury history, bit nervous. The current running backs are Swift, Warren, and A-Chain already.
What's the next running back? Because I get the point of being worried about Daniels, but you're never going to start Goff if Daniels is playing. So you're kind of just basically giving yourself a handcuff quarterback. I don't think I would do Dowdle unless I had another running back like Dowdle behind him.
What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the need in having 2 quarterbacks. I just think you're lowering your overall ceiling. Same thing with 2 DSTs, 2 kickers, 2 tight ends, honestly, end of the day. So I'm with it. Take the extra RB def. Hey, RB def, you're like, whatever. And then we have one of those weeks where all of a sudden half your running backs, are injured or on IR. So I do think it makes sense to go ahead, get as many bodies as possible back there.
I do want to back up real quick, Pat. You were talking about Derrick Henry and the fact, like, I know what you're saying about the matchup, that he had 52% of the game he was facing 8 men in the box. The Bears said one thing: Tyler Huntley's at quarterback. We're going after Derrick Henry. You figure out how to do it in the passing game. So that's part of it too. Like, I wouldn't overrate so much the fact that he wasn't getting it done on like a 5-yard per carry clip. I mean, the Bears went out to do one and one thing only.
Former Pro Bowl quarterback Tyler Huntley.
Yeah. Former Dolphins
After
legend Tyler
17
Huntley.
people declined.
One of the things, the reason I wanted you to bring up your stat, Ian, was that Kenneth Walker was number 3 on that list, which absolutely blew my mind.
Yeah, he breaks a ton of tackles out there, man. Like, nobody makes a 1-yard run more exciting than Kenneth Walker out there. I will say, though, in terms of him versus Zach Charbonnet and that whole thing, like, I understand the Seahawks' real-life decision-making. Obviously, Walker's dealt with a ton of injuries throughout his short career, and they're winning football games. So, like, why actually do it? But a lot of people have had it in their mind where it's like, okay, well, Kenneth Walker's the more explosive guy, but he's getting stopped at or behind the line of scrimmage more often than Charbonnet. That actually hasn't been the case this year. Walker actually has a better success rate and a lower stuff rate. So So honestly, I just think he's been the better running back overall. Charbonnet's faced A-plus defenders in the box more often. I think he's generally used in more run-first situations. But again, in terms of just, the Panthers and some of these other backfields, I do think the data backs up that Walker probably should be getting the rock a little more often.
I think I would agree with that too. But if it just comes down to who's going to get the ball from the 2-yard line, Jake, it's just never Kenneth Walker.
Which is frustratingly unfortunate, but that's part of the thing is that Ian brings up this stat, and we've watched Kenneth Walker throughout his career. The one thing he kind of lacks at is between the tackles, which doesn't make sense because you watch Kenneth Walker, you see his size, you see his ability, and you're like, dude, you should just be better between the tackles, especially in the gaps off the center at the guard position. So, like, it just doesn't make sense. And I think that's part of what we're seeing is that they just don't trust him that facet because he's just not doing it. That if he had, but look, it goes both ways. Like why they're both good buy lows if you need running back depth is because of what Ian said of Kenneth Walker, who happens to get the backfield because Charbonnet gets hurt. He's been a top 10 running back. And if Walker gets hurt, Charbonnet has been an RB1. So both have the potential. It's just a frustrating backfield.
For sure, but like in the interim, while they're both healthy in this situation, I mean, they're playing Washington, like not a great run defense by any means, but I think I would just play Charbonnet over Walker at the moment. Like, unless you're getting a long, like you're missing that overall upside that if he breaks the long one, which as the stats would, that Ian found out at least, would say that that might actually happen. But I'm just taking a look here. Like, when was the last time he scored 10 points? Week 3?
Well, and to your point, I think, so here's the risk. I agree with you to a point. I agree with you if I think that they score 3+ touchdowns on the day, because then you're like, you're a good chance that one of them is running. And if so, it's going to be Charbonnet. But then you kind of just fall into that trap of we're technically trying to predict touchdowns. So I understand your point. And then they both, get 12 touches, 14 touches. Walker probably gets 80 yards. Charbonnet probably gets 30 in the touchdown. And that's where the small difference is. But I think it's kind of like nitpicky there, and we're just hoping. And to your point, like the Commanders have a lot of injuries, and they've lost a lot on the defensive line so far. So I could see your argument for this week. I just think it's a dangerous thing to try and predict. That's all.
It is, but I know that there's a lot of people who have both these guys on their team, Ian, is why I mentioned this, is that people who drafted Kenneth Walker, they're like, oh, I'll get Charbonnet as a handcuff. And then they turn out to be in these, like, the worst possible fantasy situation where one guy gets all the work, but the other guy scores all the fantasy points. And it would be one thing, too, if K-Dub 3 was catching 3 passes a game out of the backfield, but he's averaging, like, 0.7 catches per game over the past 5 games.
No, I know. And those are the roughest fantasy decisions because you feel like you just always make the wrong one regardless of who you are going to roll with. So again, I do have Walker a few spots ahead. I'm just a little bit more confident in his weekly touch count. I do agree with what Jake's saying, where it becomes a risky game trying to predict those touchdowns. But remember, these are PPR ranks. So like you said, Pat, he's not getting a ton of help in the passing game. If you are going to standard half PPR, I think it shrinks even more. So just unfortunate because, again, either guy gets injured, the other one's going to be immediately in the RB1 conversation. So don't want that to happen. Obviously, everyone stay healthy. But, man, maybe if Charbonnet, could win the lottery, take the rest of the year off or something. That'd be pretty cool.
Are we seeing the reinvigoration of RJ Henry? Should he be, like, running back 7 now, like
Harvey?
people were drafting him?
No, he meant to say Henry.
Oh.
I said, no, I meant to say Harvey. I meant to say Harvey.
No, like RJ Harvey was Nick Westbrook-Akina for 1 week. It was touchdown on half of his touches. There's just what his usage in that game was actually the identical usage he had seen every week before, about 25%. And that's just has changed. That has changed. This is real good. I'll blame that one on Darkwing. It really came down to, as we've seen before, J.K. Dobbins still had his 100+ yards, and we just saw Harvey do his thing there. Harvey's still probably unusable most weeks out of 16 buys. Some people benefited because they had to use him. But unless something happens to Dobbins, which is still a threat, it's going to be crazy if this is the first time ever Dobbins actually plays a full season. But if something were to happen, he's going to be a top 20 running back, but I don't think anything's changed just with the usage last week.
Ian, can we start thinking that maybe Trevion Henderson could be a thing again?
Oh, man, he officially joined, I hope, Vrabel's circle of trust by losing that fumble inside the 10-yard line. So we'll see if that pays him dividends. But he actually has started to separate himself, okay? So because that's my issue with saying the RJ Harvey over J.K. Dobbins. Honestly, people should be complaining more so about Tyler Bidet taking away a lot of those fantasy pass down opportunities because Dobbins, he's a top 5 running back. Yards per carry, yards over expected per carry. Like, if we saw RJ Harvey having those Dobbins stats, that'd be one thing, but he doesn't. Trevion actually is starting to separate himself from Ramondre Stevenson Stevenson, though. I think Trevion's at 4.3 yards per carry. Stevenson's at 3.4. And to Trevion's credit, he's created more explosive plays. He's also been stuffed less often. So I think they've been running him more outside the tackles a little bit. And obviously, different sort of touches. Stevenson's getting more run to the middle against stack boxes. So not complete one for one, but finally seeing at least some signs of life from Trevion. So I'm excited. We still got Terrell Jennings as the freaking 5-minute back, or whatever Vrabel wants to call him. But it is a point where, again, as I have to unfortunately start Henderson on some of my teams that are in buys, I hate myself just a little bit less than I did this time last week.
Jake, if you were going to have to start someone from outside, let's say the top 35 this week, like you're in injury trouble, you're in a pinch, whatever it might be, I think I would go back to Monangai again in this matchup.
100%. There was back-to-back. Monangai and Tootin would be the two. It was like the layup. And if you want to go a little bit further, Samaje Perine, who, yay for Chase Brown, but the problem with Chase Brown is that he's still only getting teen touches. They haven't increased his workload. This is Chase Brown, the player from last year, but it's not Chase Brown, the touches from last year, as Samaje Perine is basically now in that conversation with those two running backs. I would say Monangai 100%. I say if you really want to shoot for the ceiling, maybe the Jaguars got frustrated with ETN's 3 games before they hit their bye, and all of a sudden Tootin comes out of the bye, as we've seen before with rookies, and things change during the bye as well. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying, would we be shocked? No. And the chance that Tootin comes out with 60% of the workload and all of a sudden ETN's the complimentary player, I would still go Monangai over him. I'm just saying, if you're really shooting for ceiling this week, it wouldn't be a shock to me if they turn to Tootin as the lead.
Ian, if Tootin ends up being really, really good, are you going to have to fight people on Twitter?
I'm tired of the ETN slander, because yes, Jake's right. ETN's yards per carry has fallen off. He was over 6, now he's at 3.8 over these last handful of weeks. But do you notice how people never actually include Tootin's yards per carry over the last 3 weeks as well in that stat? He's also at 3.8. Bayshaw Tootin is the only player in the league with at least 30 rush attempts and not a single run over 10+ yards. So yeah, okay, he's got a cool size speed combination. I think he's a great fantasy football handcuff. I just feel like, again, people have just been obsessing over this Tootin dude for the last 6 months. Meanwhile, ETN's largely having a nice bounce back year and has done some really good things. Doesn't matter, because people want to be able to go back to their April 5th tweet and quote tweet it and say, oh, look how right I was about Bayshaw Tootin back in the day. So yes, good handcuff. He's been that ever since Tank Bigsby was removed from the picture after week 1. I would be very surprised if they completely kick ETN to the curb. But honestly, it's that Jaguars offensive line that I think people are getting distracted from. Trevor Lawrence, the first 4 or 5 weeks of the year, had the lowest pressure rate in the league, but that thing has spiked, and he's now been one of the most pressured quarterbacks in the league over the past handful of weeks. So we'll see with Tootin. I'd be surprised. I think he's more of a handcuff. I think the real question, we'll get to wide receivers in a bit, but maybe I would be more willing to believe Travis Hunter actually keeps the good times rolling, and honestly maybe displaces BTJ as the legit number 1 wide receiver.
We'll get to wide receivers in just a moment. One final question for both you guys. Let's work off the premise that maybe Barkley is more injured than they're letting on, and during the bye week, we're just not going to know. That if you did want to get out ahead of this, Shipley's out there, but it wasn't Shipley, Jake. I assumed it would be Shipley, but it wasn't. It was Tank Bigsby who came in to run out the rest of that game. Do you think that was circumstantial? Do you think that's the order that they're going in now? If you had to go grab one of those guys, who would you grab?
Tank Bigsby, not even a question about it. And it really comes down to, I do think Shipley will be involved, but this is what we're talking about with a lot of these backfields. Even when you have quote unquote bell cows, you still have somebody touching the ball 20% of the time. And most backfields that are leaning on their lead quite a bit, not quite a true bell cow, is still 70-30. So Shipley would be involved, but Bigsby looked great. Bigsby is a good fit for this offense. All the excitement people had for Bigsby back with Jacksonville, this is what he did. This is like what he can do. So I think the one thing we found out that was clear is he's the next man up. Similar to like Samaje Perine, has been cleared like now that he's the next man up, if not Taj Brooks, if something were to happen. So yes, if you have a free spot and you want to stash Bigsby, just to your point that Barkley is more hurt than they're letting on, I would definitely do that, but I wouldn't do it over the point of somebody playing this week. Like Monangai is out there, even Perine. I would always, you talk about this when dropping players that haven't played yet and they have the Monday night or the Sunday night game. I would always have a handcuff running back playing this week over one that's on a bye.
I would agree with that. How about you, Ian?
Yeah, I can totally get behind that. But again, Tank Bigsby, obviously now the next man up. I will say, shouldn't be exactly assuming that we'd see complete fireworks. I don't think Bigsby is this, tier 1 handcuff. I'd rather have Bayshall Tootin if, again, we're removing the starter from the equation,
Oh,
because
man.
all those problems that we were kind of worried about with Saquon last year, when he gets down the goal line, Jalen Hurts is going to score, and he's also not going to be getting receiving work. Yeah, it didn't matter last year because Saquon said, I'm going to rip off 50-yard touchdowns every week and average 5.9 yards per carry. In the absence of that, we have more of an RB2, despite Saquon still being awfully good at the game. So with Bigsby, Shipley would be taking the pass down work. I could honestly see A.J. Dillon maybe being annoyingly involved as well. So just don't get too crazy, because when I look at my top ranks, okay, let's say the Eagles were playing this week and Saquon was out. I think I would probably put Tank Bigsby right alongside Chase Brown, Kamani Vidal. I don't think he'd be this, instant top 10 running back by any stretch.
One more question from the chat. Ian, for you, thoughts on Kareem Hunt, thinking about picking him up or playing him over Tyjae Spears?
Over Spears? I would not drop Spears right now, because Tony Pollard has been involved in these trade talks. And hey, if we do see him shipped out, we've seen them willing to feature Spears as a legit every down back, just has more of an upside in the pass game as well. But if you did just, for pure, I need points in week 9, I think I can get behind, maybe preferring Kareem Hunt. Is going to be a high scoring game potentially against the Bills, who also lost Ed Oliver likely for the rest of the year. We've seen them be pretty bad against the run when that has been the case. So I bet I do have Spears ranked a little bit ahead of Hunt, one of those post Monday Night Football changes that I always like to blame when I'm wrong about something on Mondays. So yeah, I think it makes sense.
Jake?
Oh, you said for Ian. I thought I was going to get a break from this as we headed to the wide receivers. Yeah, I have no problem with the fact that you're talking about two offenses too. You're talking about the secondary piece. Which offense do you want more? I'm going to go for the Chiefs, especially if Pacheco is not 100%.
All right. Well, we'll talk about all the wide receiver injuries, all the wide receiver rankings right after this. For over a century, Johnnie Walker has shared its bold spirit with the game of golf. Now, crafted with Devereux Go, Johnnie Walker introduces the Johnnie Walker Blue Label-inspired Sunday Golf Bag, elevating the game with sleek design, Blue Label hues, and refined gold accents. Celebrate your hole-in-one with a premium Sunday bag crafted by Devereux Golf. Submit proof of your achievement to johnniewalker.com/blue-in-1. Please drink responsibly. All right, we're back. Wide receiver rankings. Ian Hartitz's rankings are available in the description and over at fantasylife.com. You want mine? Hit the free newsletter. They come out on Wednesday afternoon. Jake's at theathletic.com. Come out on, tonight at midnight, or tomorrow at 12:01 a.m. Eastern is where you're looking for Jake's rankings over at The Athletics. And wide receiver injuries. Marvin Mims, Rashid Shaheed, Luther Burden, and Terry McLaurin, Jake, all left week number 8. McLaurin says he's day-to-day, but I'm pretty sure it was the same quad.
That's the issue. He said, I might have been able to come back in the game. It's not as bad as last, but it's the same quad. I would definitely be making backup plans if you don't have somebody to step in with buys or something like that. I have a league where if I don't have him, the other two are on a bye, and yeah, you need an option.
Puka should be back this week. That's good news, Ian.
It's great news. Again, as great as JSN is going, I still think that Puka probably just the more sure thing on a weekly basis. So we got Jamar Chase, 54 targets over the past 3 weeks. So I couldn't get him off that wide receiver 1 spot. But hey, Puka, man, anyone's idea of a top 5 fantasy receiver looks like it in real life too.
No word yet on Godwin, Nico, Christian Kirk, A.J. Brown's on bye, obviously. Josh Reynolds was placed on injured reserve. I believe he was placed on injured. Was he placed on injured reserve, or he's just out?
He was. I was thinking about that the other day. Is he the nicest guy in football? How does he keep getting contracts and then never playing because he's always hurt?
It's quite the gig. He's like the Chase Daniels of receiver.
How has Calvin Ridley had a hamstring injury for 3 weeks and we have not heard a single word about it? Did the entire Tennessee beat just quit when the coach got fired? Come on.
It's him and Pearsall. They're both what's going on with them?
I don't know. We don't know with him either. We don't know about Wicks. Ridley, as you mentioned, Garrett Wilson, who knows? Josh Palmer, I mean, we don't really care about that one, but he's also not been playing. Cedric Tillman and Brandon Ayuk might be able to come back next week because obviously the Browns are on bye. We'll see with Tillman coming off of injured reserve, and ditto for Brandon Ayuk if he can start practicing again. And Tutu Atwell was placed on injured reserve. So you lose Tutu, you get Puka back. That's probably a good trade up. Jamar Chase is number 1 in Ian's rankings. Puka's number 2, JSN, CeeDee Lamb, Rashee Rice now at number 5 In the rankings, Amon-Ra, Justin Jefferson, Roma Dunze, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Adams, Nico Collins, Drake London. London didn't play last week. We just assume he's good to go this week?
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, it was kind of a weird late downgrade. Obviously, screwed over a lot of people just trying to enjoy their Saturdays and their weekends. So unfortunate. Luckily, we had Darnell Mooney step in and just do such a great job out there. That definitely didn't tilt me to no end all day Sunday. So yeah, I think it's gonna be London. Hopefully, we get Michael Penix back under center though, guys. Because again, one of my biggest takeaways from last weekend was just how purely washed Kirk Cousins looked, and what was supposed to be a good matchup against obviously a terrible Dolphins secondary that then lost like multiple starters throughout the game. Didn't matter because it turns out in 2025, if you cannot move, you really are going to have a hard time playing quarterback.
So London's at number 12 if he plays. Where would you move? And would you move Mooney way up in this matchup against the Patriots, or is it just like it's like play Kyle Pitts? That's kind of it, and Bijan obviously.
I'd move him up. He'd be more so in that wide receiver 3-4 probably tier. Like once we start getting to the 49ers wide receivers, Jacoby Myers, Travis Hunter or Shaheed, I think that's more of the spot for him. So just unfortunate with this Falcons team. 1 week they're beating the Bills and looking like a legit squad, but then the next week, obviously they're losing the Panthers, getting embarrassed by the Dolphins or what have you. So honestly, I think the big winner would be Kyle Pitts. Low key guys averaging the most PPR points per game of his career through 8 weeks.
Well, that's because they only allow him to run 3 yards down the field now.
He looks good. Come on. Kyle Pitts looks big and athletic for the first time in his career. Give him a little credit.
That's what it is. They're not asking him to run routes. They're asking him to run into the defenders and box them out and peel off of them, which is kudos to the Falcons for finally figuring out that Kyle Pitts can't run routes.
It's true. Mike in the chat, Jake, says that the worst injury update of the year is Joe Mixon.
Oh, and there's no question about it. Like that's why I didn't even have him inside the top 50. They were talking about that injury so weirdly, and it was such a major one. And they're like, we're expecting maybe an update in October is what they had said. They didn't even say we expect them in October. And then they continually get DeMeco Ryans, so he's like, yeah, still no update, still no update, still no update. He's not playing this year.
Well, do you think that the Najee Harris eye thing, Ian, was a false flag that Joe Mixon actually got his foot amputated or something?
I don't know. I guess we're not going to find out from the national reporters, the insiders out there, because they're just too busy ripping off whatever teams or beat reporters are publishing as official stuff in the first place. So it's so frustrating, guys. Like outside of 2 to 3 Sunday morning tweets where we find out if a questionable guy is going to play, what exactly are Schefter and Rapshi even doing all week? What do they actually do here? Glorified Dobbs that we actually saw Nick Wright say something similar here over the weekend. So come on, insiders, prove me wrong. Tell us why one of the, most productive running backs has been out for the last 3 months. We have not heard a peep.
Or tell us that Haskins is going to be the starter. That's what they're doing, Ian.
They're just giving you the wrong info. That's never any.
Yeah.
Cortland Sutton is at 13. Pickens, Ladd, Pittman, Zay Flowers, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins. He have 1 target, but for 1 catch, but for a long touchdown. That always goes a long way. Olave, Tet McMillan, Brian Thomas Jr. So Ian, you're still on board with Thomas over Hunter, although the reports are, maybe these reports are dead wrong, as we've been talking about, that Hunter might be the number 1 now.
Yeah, I struggle with the BTJ one. I could see Hunter again, maybe taking over. That said, though, I mean, we've kind of been hearing this drumbeat about, this is going to be the next week for Hunter, and that took until week, 7 for it to finally happen. And he also had 0 catches in the first half of that game. Was a lot of garbage time. Just because it's Travis Hunter, everyone was kind of willing to look past that fact. When it's Garrett Wilson, we got to, bring that up every single time. So again, kind of want to give it 1 more week. We saw BTJ as bad as the week, 7 was before their bye. Week 6, he finally had a breakout. Still maintain he's good. Just honestly seems like a case of the yips more than anything. So hopefully got right during the bye. Obviously a smashable matchup against the Raiders. 1 more week, shout out Chet Stedman. 1 more chance, 1 more BTJ. I think he can hopefully get it done. But yeah, this time next week I could do something serious and get Hunter above him.
In your rankings, Jake, do you think he'll go higher?
I can see higher on Travis Hunter, but I actually think Brian Thomas is a great buy low. My only concern for him is how healthy he is, because he left that game twice. And now they do have their bye. As the time that we're doing this, we don't even have practice reports for this week to know Brian Thomas's health. But to Ian's point here, if you look through the first 3 weeks as well, I wrote this up. Brian Thomas barely had 40%. It was like 42 or something like that were on target throws from Trevor Lawrence through the first 3 games. He was dealing with the wrist issue. The 3 games after that, before the game that he got hurt, 100% on target. And he started looking like himself because I do think the wrist was bothering him. I think he was worried to take contact 50-50 bowls. We saw him make the business decision. I think that was bothering more than he let on. And then we saw a decent game, and then the final 5 and 6 were good games. Where Brian Thomas, he was top 20, and then he got banged up and hurt right before the bye. So if he's healthy, I do think he's coming along. That being said, with Travis Hunter, I think he's part of the problem in the fact that Brian Thomas isn't going to be a wide receiver 1 this year, but still top 20, where he's got him like, I know he's, what is that, 22? He's barely outside the top 20. I think that's where he can settle in, even if Travis Hunter is also top 30 the rest of the way.
Debo 23, Marvin Harrison 24, Keenan Allen, Worthy, Addison, Wandale Robinson, Stephen Diggs, Quentin Johnston, Terry McLaurin, Khalil Shakir, DJ Moore, Romeo Doubs, the number 1 rated Green Bay receiver right now with the return of Christian Watson. More on that in a second. Troy Franklin, Kayshon Boutte, the ass man, coming in at number 36. Shaheed, who is banged up. Watch out for him to see if he plays or not with that glute injury. Travis Hunter, Jameson Williams, Juwan Johnson, Kendrick Bourne, Jacoby Myers, Josh Downs, Trey Tucker, Christian Watson, Keon Coleman, Alec Pierce, Dyke Cup, Malik Washington, Darnell Mooney. We'll see what happens once again when it comes down to Drake London. There is a question about Matthew Golden, Ian, who you have at number 52. Would you drop him at this point?
I think it's fine if you have to. Just so disappointing. Savion freaking Williams now has more receiving touchdowns than Matthew Golden this year. So just, again, can't express enough. Look how good of a run out it was, too. Christian Watson wasn't back until week 9. Jaden Reed was out, pretty much immediately into the season. I mean, Tucker Kraft wasn't really even getting force-fed the football until these last few weeks. So very disappointing for Matthew Golden. But, Jake, I will say, as much as you can watch the film, you can look at the 40-yard dash and the offense and the available targets, like when you do go back and look at Golden's career in college, he wasn't exactly doing a great job demanding targets then either.
Oh, he was also the second best wide receiver. As people laughed at me before when I said Isaiah Bond was better than he was at Texas. But all that being said, not to play that game, but Golden is droppable. I actually put him in my waiver column as a droppable because I usually try to look for people that are 60% or more rostered to say, do you need to make this cut in slimmer leagues? He's not droppable for nobody. Like, I'm not dropping Golden to go chase Darnell Mooney because Darnell Mooney's not really a thing this year. And if anything were to happen again to Christian Watson or even Romeo Doubs, I'd rather stash the upside because I consider that a wide receiver I'm not using anyway. But if you want to drop him for Booty, Troy Franklin is still out there, Trey Tucker, I'd even have a conversation about your boy, Darius Slayton and Alec Pierce, kind of in that range. But he's kind of in that range now where like they're wide receiver 4 or 5s. The worst part about it, he was targeted fewer times than freaking Malik Heath. Malik Heath, he was basically a blocking wide receiver, saw more target than he did.
I would have Alec Pierce higher. You have him at 47, Ian. I'd play him over Josh Downs every week at this point.
Death, taxes, and one big bomb per week for Alec Pierce.
Over highest, longest reception on Alec Pierce every week. I believe it is hit every week in a game he's finished.
He had the 50-yard bomb, but on like the second play of the game, he caught a comeback route where he put that cornerback in the dirt, twisted him up. Alec Pierce is the man, guys. He is going to get Darius Slayton plus money here next March. The only problem is, just like Josh Downs, like everything in this Colts offense is great. Number 1 ranked scoring offense in the league. They're doing their thing, but it all goes through Jonathan Taylor first and foremost. And then during any given week, it's going to be Tyler Warren and Michael Pittman atop the pecking order. And then it's just, whatever's left there for Downs and Pierce. So I'm going to try to look at some man zone stuff this week and see if there is some rhyme or reason to when we're seeing the Pierce blow up games. But great real life receiver and everything. It's just tough to, again, get him out of that boomer bust wide receiver 4 territory.
I have an insulting question for you guys. Would you like to hear it?
Ooh. Yeah.
This is what happens when you come on this show. I know this is a football show, but with all you guys being from Canada, how do you feel about the World Series?
Hey, I stayed up for the whole thing.
All of us? All of you.
All of you dirty Canadians.
You remember this, Pat? I did so much work with you and Meanie for the longest time. Somebody were legitimately was like, I didn't know you weren't Canadian.
It's funny, for the longest time, people didn't know that I wasn't American. And then now we've completely flopped situations.
We sure like.
But no, I didn't say. I watched through the second Ohtani homer. I was like, yeah, it's enough for me. And I'm in the worst time zone, so that was already at midnight. It's like, I got to work tomorrow here. I'll catch up on it in the morning. Then I saw it went 18 innings. Like, this sucks. And they lost.
Oh, yeah, I'm glad I went to sleep. I went to sleep the whatever half of the inning was after they sent him home with Vlad coming up and they got thrown out at home.
I'm sure you guys will remember that good night's sleep in 20 years. Not the time you stayed up for an 18-inning World Series game. Let's go.
So
there was probably 5 people awake, and they're all from Canada.
I was one of them.
Yeah, and Ian was one of them. Hey, listen, I went to game 1 and 2, so like I was pretty beat up from the weekend. I had to catch up on
Those
my
are some
sleep.
good seats too, by the way. I'm impressed you got those, Pat.
Yeah, I mean they weren't cheap, Jake.
That Johnny
I'm
Walker
sure.
sponsorship. Shout out.
Well, we're gonna be talking more about that on the spread show tonight because Cust went to the game with me and Jeff went to game 2 as well. So we'll touch on it more that way. Which wide receiver 2 from Houston would you rather pick up? Noel, Hutchinson, Higgins, or is it just Christian Kirk and Collins are eventually going to be back, which renders all these guys pretty useless?
It's Hutchinson, but he's a low ceiling. Hutchinson's been the 2. He's been the 2. He's been the 2. Like when, and he was the 1. So Higgins did what they said they. I can't make sense of it. Nobody can, and maybe we're talking about Higgins in 2026, but they drafted him and legitimately said he's the backup to Nico Collins out of camp. And everybody's like, yeah, we don't believe you. You drafted him in the 2nd round. You guaranteed his full contract. He's Jaden Higgins. And the Texans weren't lying. He was the backup plan to Nico Collins. He saw more opportunities when Nico Collins left the game, and he was the 2 this past week. But Hutchinson was the 1, and he's been the 2 with Nico Collins. Christian Kirk for Jalen Noel, that's cool. Like, Jalen Noel's got yardage in both games and saved me in a couple leagues where I had the spot starting. But the problem is his snap count actually went down in routes because he's only out there for 3 wide and slot wide receivers. He is Christian Kirk. He replaced Christian Kirk. So the Texans, as annoying as it is, the Texans are telling us exactly what they're going to do at wide receiver and not lying about it.
Are we too low on Shamir Dyke, Ian? Like he's been pretty good.
Chimere DK.
Yeah.
Now, Jake, you're
looking
coming to
good,
the
man.
you're coming to the show. You
clearly
know how that's going to get pronounced.
I still didn't perform over, A.O. Manor at this point. Just wasn't on the same page with Ward basically all of last week. So back-to-back nice games from DK. No more Lockett. Again, Ridley at this point. Can we just see the dude hold up today's newspaper or something? So as things stand with no Ridley out there, I do think DK is the preferred option. Can we trust really anything going on this Titans offense as a whole? No, not really. But hey, if you wanted to move him up ahead as that kind of boom-bust wide receiver 4 tier, again, I kind of got the Watson, Keon, Trey Tucker guys. You're just hoping to catch one big one. I do think DK could deserve to be around, alongside the Kendrick Bournes, Josh Downs, Travis Hunters of the world. So looking good. And honestly, I do think, DK, he was someone we highlighted on the Fantasy Life show as one of the better wide receiver additions because, we've seen these rookies go ahead and do better things in the second half. And I do think his play actually matches, the good numbers we've seen.
Well, there's a really easy comparison, in my opinion, in the fact that they're the Bills. DK is Shakir and Keon Coleman is Ian Manor. You're going to get the bigger plays, bigger bombs to Ian Manor, and Cam Ward can throw those, but he hasn't had time a lot of the weeks because it's the Titans. So you're going to hit that underneath, and when he has to get the ball out quick, it's been a lot of DK. As Ian said, the problem is if Ridley comes back, that probably kicks DK to 3, and they still keep Ian Manor out there. We can only hope that Ridley is traded or doesn't come back for the DK value.
Roman Wilson or Michael Wilson, if you had to spot start one?
Michael. We got MVS now in Pittsburgh. Maybe could mess things up a little bit for Rome.
I'm the biggest Roman Wilson fan that there probably is, but he was still only 40% of the routes. He was behind 2 tight ends in usage. So, it's cool. I'm excited to see it. I would hope that makes him potentially have a threat to the number 2 job from Calvin Austin, but it's just not happening.
Michael Wilson's playing Dallas, too. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, that's why we were in agreement on the Michael Wilson thing.
Yeah, I think you have Michael Wilson at 68, Ian. I think I just bump him up to, Keon Coleman range.
No, because then it'll be Zay Jones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, see, Jack says we need to start using my pronunciation of Dyke because everyone's getting him confused with DK Metcalf. See, this is much easier for me.
Everyone.
The world is very confused about this entire thing.
Just such similar players. Size.
What'd you call him? Shiny? What did you use for his first name?
Chimere Dyke.
I think you should go with Shimmery because you can almost make that look. Yeah, Shimmery Dyke. There you go.
I was gonna say Chimney Dyke, but now
because it almost looks like Shimmery.
It does kind of look like Shimmery. But that would be like that with CH. It wouldn't be Chim.
No, I know, but
guys. Pat is a ball knower. He grinds the all 22. They don't announce the names on there, so how can you be blaming Pat here?
Yeah, I mean, as someone who doesn't listen to football with sound, I mean, I'm always at risk for looking stupid up here. I don't know how you guys can watch it with sound. It's awful. The commentary is awful for these games.
Even on
I
red
see.
zone, man, like I think Scott Hansen
That's
does a good job moving around. But when people were like, "Oh my God," like all due respect to Scott Hansen, but like I don't know, I still watch red zone if it was Jake doing it. Jake, I'm sure you'd be fine doing it as well. But just like I don't know, I watch red zone for the games, not for added commentary.
I still like Siciliano better, but I do the same thing. So I have the double quad boxes, but the audio's on the red zone just in case I'm in tune to a certain game and something's happening that I need to look over.
All right. So, and announcers kept saying Noel and not Noel. At least that one I knew. Being Francais. Although when I thought it was Etienne,
Noel.
at least I thought it was Etienne, as it should be, because he's from Louisiana and French, but he pronounces it like an American. So here we are. You never know with this stuff.
Well, we only found out 3 weeks ago, thank you, Ian, that it's actually bidet and not batty.
That's true. We did find that out, didn't we? Although that still makes no sense at all. Someone wants to trade Justin Jefferson for Rashee Rice.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
You would?
Yeah. I would rather have Rice at this point.
Do you think you could get more based off that name value alone? Like Rice and something?
No, I would actually go the opposite direction. I think you could get more for Rice at this point because you had the buildup and all the excitement and like, what can he do and what can he do based off what he was doing last year as the number one wide receiver in per game before he got hurt. And everybody's like waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And then he hit as soon as he got back. And I think that's kind of inflated his value where I honestly think you could get Jefferson and a piece for Rice at this point.
Would you start Dowdle over Slayton or Keenan Allen, Ian?
Definitely Slayton. Although, Jake, what do you think about that OPI call? There's a lot of hand fighting going on there.
You saw I tweeted you guys. Like I'd never want to like support you guys for the Darius Slayton thing because that was a fun argument at the time. But like that was one of the worst offensive pass interference. Like that was hand fighting both ways, and then they called it. That was weak.
Yeah, so I think I would probably lean towards Keenan Allen. I forget who even the other option was. Who we talking about? Dowdle, yeah. One more week. Again, you mentioned the Packers matchup, and the Panthers literally lost 3 offensive line starters in that game. So one more week, give me Keenan over Dowdle.
How worried should you be with QJ, Jake, with his 0 targets? Like, has Gadsden? I have a theory on this, but I want to hear yours first.
So I actually broke this down in the waiver column in my worry report. So Quentin Johnston deserves worry, but at the same time, we understand that Gadsden's a top 10 tight end, but he's going to also have inconsistency. We've done this. This is the problem with trying to support 3 wide receivers. I did it way back with the Luther Burden game. It's like, don't go crazy on waivers for Luther Burden. The history of teams that have supported 3,000-yard receivers is like 5, and 2 of them came back before we were even playing fantasy football. And then since then, there's been a handful of 900 with the other 2 getting 1,000. And a lot of those involve the tight end, like Kellen Winslow and stuff like that. So it can be supported with 3, but it's very rare that even happens, let alone now 4. So we had Ladd, who was disappearing at the beginning of the season, and then it was Keenan Allen's turn, and now it's Quentin Johnston's turn. He's going to have some good games for the rest of the season. We're going to see bad ones from Gadsden. Ladd McConkey's going to have a bad week. But the answer for Quentin Johnston is where Ian has him. He's a wide receiver 3 that's going to get you 20 points and potentially a 0, and you just have to suffer through it.
I think with Gadsden now running a lot of these seam routes, Ian, and being, let's call it, far more sure-handed than Quentin Johnston, that some of those touchdown looks that QJ was getting because he was getting separation either down deep or in the end zone are just kind of filtering towards Gadsden because he might not drop half them.
Yeah, I think when you do just try to look at where these players are making their money and most of the catches, I think that adds up. I mean, Gadsden, honestly, as much as they are using him as an inline tight end, like, let's face it, he is more of a receiver out there that, we call a tight end. So kudos to the guy. I think the 3rd most freaking receiving yards by a tight end in NFL history through his first 6 career games. But yeah, I do think, we deserve to have QJ kind of ranked as the wide receiver 3 here moving forward. He actually joins Rome Odunze as the only wide receivers averaging 10 or more PPR points per game less in these last 4 weeks compared to the first month of the season. So was absolutely crushing it, through September, the wide receiver 4 in PPR points. So I don't expect him to completely fall off a map, but don't look now, guys, over these last 4 weeks, Ladd McConkey, wide receiver 6 on a per game basis. So I think the world has corrected itself and we don't have to be freaking out about Ladd every week now.
Okay. A few trade questions. Would you trade RJ Harvey and Xavier Worthy, Jake, for T Higgins?
I mean, you'd have to be super deep at running back. I mean, you're upgrading at wide receiver, but it's not an enormous leap that to throw in essentially one of the top handcuffs in the NFL.
Ian, are you worried about Flacco's shoulder and his availability?
It's not ideal. He came back out there and played through it, although we see guys with the adrenaline be able to do that all the time. So we'll see. Please, for the love of God, no more Jake Browning. To give Jake Browning a little bit of credit, though, the one thing that was going on in the middle of that change was a brutal schedule stretch for the Bengals. I think they had like the Broncos and a couple other just atrocious matchups immediately after Burrow got hurt. So I think Jake Browning's a little bit better than the league worst play he was putting forward. But yeah, it's not ideal.
Would you consider Travis Kelce in the low end wide receiver 2 range if he's an option for your flex spot?
No, I consider him wide receiver 3. He's essentially got the touchdown, which was cool this week, carryover from National Tight End Day, but he's essentially been a floor play for most of the season.
Like, so
I have him just outside. I have him behind Xavier Worthy, who's my like wide receiver 26. So close, but more of a, wide receiver 3 type. Kelce, I will say, just eye test, he looks a lot more fresh and, good after the catch this year.
Yeah, but he's what you wanted Jacoby Myers to be, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Jacoby Myers said, I want to be traded, so I'm going to quit playing football for the Raiders, basically. I'll be out there, but I'm working to rule here. I'm not doing anything.
I want to see a race between Kelce, Juju, and Kareem Hunt. I'm honestly not sure who would win. I think it'd be competitive, though.
So what you're saying is that Kelce is more like, it's less of a question like Worthy, Jordan Addison. I think I would actually play Addison in that spot, like Wandale
He's
Robinson.
like Keenan Allen. That's the comp. He's like Keenan Allen.
I'd say even more DJ Moore. Where do you have? I'd put him at DJ Moore.
DJ Moore, man.
DJ Moore's at 33 at Ian's ranking.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, DJ Moore goes out there and puts up 50, 60 yards every single week, and that's all he does.
All right, last one before we move on to tight ends. Bailey says this is his first year playing fantasy, overloaded at wide receiver. Chase, JSN, Adunze, Igbuka, Pickens, and Sutton, but very weak at run. That's an outrageous receiving core. Quite weak at running back.
First year, just happened to walk into this.
Achan,
6-team league.
Yeah, Achan, Rashad White, Tyrone Tracy, and Hampton, who's on IR at running back. What is the move for this? It's an 8-man league. I would say take Jamar Chase and trade him for Bijan Robinson.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, that would be my move. Take Chase and get the best. Get McCaffrey, get Bijan. Those two. Or Jonathan Taylor.
Chase,
like one of those 3.
Try to do that with one of the other guys. That'd be my only counter.
I don't think so. I don't think you would get, even with JSN, I don't think you'd get one of the big 3 running backs. Maybe you would, but I think I'd rather have JSN than Chase, honestly.
It also has to depend on your league too. Like, what's the experience level? Like, so if there are a lot of first timers, you might be able to just look at production numbers, and people will trade off their numbers, which you sometimes get as they just look at the per game. 8-team also makes it tough. So I'd actually go a different route, Pat, because you can't start all of them. I would almost try. I'm not saying you can get it done, but I'd send Adunze and Pickens for a top 3 if I could.
I don't personally think that would get that done. Maybe you're right. That would be the first move, but I would even say you could do Chase for Christian McCaffrey and then be like, yeah, I'll give you Sutton and Pickens for James Cook, and then you got 2 running backs.
That too.
But it all depends on the people that you're trying to trade with. Yeah. Thoughts about Mark Andrews? Tight end 1, or should I drop him for Kate Otten or Schultz? Definitely not a tight end 1. That I'll say.
I'd keep him over those other guys. I mean, we haven't seen Isaiah likely do anything. Unfortunately, Charlie Kohler, pops in every once in a while to go ahead and steal one of those touchdowns. But Lamar finally, seemingly coming back to the picture. I mean, as bad as Andrews and inconsistent as he was last year, still scored 11 freaking touchdowns out there. So I don't want the mark.
Tight end rankings for week numero 9. McBride, Kraft, Warren, Kittle, Bowers. Those are the top 5. You're feeling Brock Bowers here? He's going to be fine, Ian?
I mean, he'd be tight end 1. I feel like if we were doing these rankings, a couple months ago, so I'm feeling not fine enough to, I guess, put it behind some of these other dudes. But yeah, coming out of the bye, hopefully back to good health. Hopefully Chip Kelly, isn't the worst offensive coordinator in the league like he's kind of looked like through the first couple months. So fine enough. Dude did just have the best rookie season from a tight end we've ever seen. So I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. After
that, Ferguson, Gadsden, Kelsey, Laporta, Pitts. I think those 10 are, Jake, at least floor reliable rather than, even upside reliable.
Yeah, I was going to say, even worst case, most of them, maybe Pitts, but I mean, it's definitely better if Penix is back, as we're assuming. But 4 or 5 points at worst, so it's not the greatest floor, but I mean, that's better than a lot of floors at tight end, which could be a 0.
After that, now we're into it. Kincaid, Ingram, Henry, Andrews, Ertz, Hawkinson, Theo Johnson, Dalton Schultz, Juwan Johnson, and Colston Loveland. If Kmet is out again, I would roll Colston Loveland over a lot of these guys.
And that is, Pat, the one thing when I was actually going through my flex rankings last night. Didn't send you an update, but I did move Loveland actually up to tight end 14 behind Henry and Ingram. So I hear you. Bengals, the worst defense in the league against tight ends. So I think that's a good shout.
Schultz would move up if Nico and Kirk are out again, just because they seem to be prioritizing him more, and especially against Denver. I know that Surtain is probably going to be out, Jake, but just someone who's probably going to end up with 6 targets in the game. Noah Fant might be the same way as well with all the injuries that the Bengals have, that he's just kind of out there.
Yeah, I would prefer Schultz, although Schultz had that opportunity last week and kind of had a so-so game. But I would play Schultz. If there's no Nico Collins, he would jump Theo and Hawkinson at this point for me.
Yeah, I mean, Hawkinson, when was Hawkinson had a good game, 2 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago was the bye.
His whole career, I guess this idea of him as a top 5 tight end has been skewed by him in 2023 going off when Justin Jefferson wasn't in the picture and Jordan.
There was nobody left. Yeah,
exactly.
Hawkinson has 1 game over 7 points, and it's the game he scored a touchdown.
The Lions traded him to their division rival. Yeah, why?
I'm just reading a blog from. I was just trying to see what I was like. Did Chip Kelly get fired yet? And I was like, I guess not. But people were saying if Mike McDaniels get fired, hire Mike McDaniel as the Raiders OC and fire Chip Kelly. That might be the move.
Hey, I don't want to hurt myself, pat my own back, but I remember talking to you guys in August saying that everyone was overrating some of these play caller changes and exactly how much stuff was going to happen. I don't know, maybe Liam Cohen's success in Tampa Bay had a little bit more to do with Mike Evans and Baker freaking Mayfield and Bucky Irving being amazing. So again, I do think Ben Johnson is better than the average OC, but can we chill the hell out with this next year?
I will say that Ben Johnson, he's made the Bears offense better, but
yeah,
just kind of worry about their player. He's scheming guys open.
Their team has 5 more points at this point this year than they did last year.
But
a little bit more.
But you're a game film grinder, like myself, Ian. They look more competent. The results just aren't there.
They are. It's better than Shane Waldron, okay. But my God, you would think this dude was the second coming of Jesus. And guess what? The Lions offense is just fine. They're still running the same sort of trick plays that was supposed to be Ben Johnson's calling card. What happened to all the reverse tackle, flea flicker bullshit that he was doing on the reg in Detroit?
So too, the Bears are more consistent this year and more effective in that aspect. Let's also remember before their bye last year, they faced Jaguars and Panthers and they gobsmacked. Those were 2 of the defenses that everybody was putting 30 points up on. So I get your point, but at the same time, a little bit of pushback there. My bigger thing about what you're saying about the loss of Ben Johnson hasn't affected the Lions, except it has affected one person. It's Jameson Williams, because as we've talked about on this show and other podcasts, I had Rich Rebar on mine last week, and he brought up the fact too, is that it's the big thing is Morton has turned him back into the Jameson Williams from 2 years ago, where everything is just he turned him into Alec Pierce. Everything's go downfield, 15 yards plus, all your routes. You're not coming across the middle of the field anymore, and it's killed Jameson Williams, as we've seen.
Quarterbacks for week number 9. Who we got here at number 1, Ian? Oh, Josh Allen. I hear he's good. He's number 1. Lamar's number 2. Patrick Mahomes is number 3. Jaden Daniels, Justin Herbert, there's your top 5. Drake May, Dak, Daniel Jones, Caleb, Bo Nix, there's your top 10. Kyler, Dart, Stafford, Love, Jared Goff is the top 15. Purdy expected back at 16. Flacco, Darnold, Lawrence, Aaron Rodgers is the top 20. Jake, anyone from this bottom 33, because we're going to get JJ McCarthy starting and not Carson Wentz. So this bottom 32, we don't know if it's Penix or Cousins yet. It's probably going to be Penix that you think hey, maybe we should bump this guy up a bit.
The only one, because of the injuries and coming off the bye, I would argue you could probably say Sam Darnold over Purdy, just because Purdy coming back from the injury. And if it's Mac Jones, and not that I'm scared of the Giants, they actually did lose to a corner and a safety, which you saw last week made them extremely vulnerable. So if Adebo and the other one I'm spacing on right now, if neither of them are back, the one that they got from the Dolphins, help me out here.
Javon Holland.
Safety. Yes, thank you. If Holland and Adebo are both out, it's still a decent matchup, obviously, for Purdy in his first game back. But again, first game back, Sam Darnold against Washington. I think you could argue for that one. But I don't want to go much further than that because then you have tough matchups, questionable situations. So I don't want to go much further. The question I was actually going to throw back to you guys, only because I was so shocked to see how many people were asking in the waivers, are like, oh, do we have to downgrade and potentially drop Jackson Dart now they lost Scatterboot? I'm like, no, it's irrelevant. Like that doesn't change anything. Am I missing something? Like, I'm not trying to be mean, but like maybe I'm just being dumb.
I would say it goes the other way. Dart is probably more valuable without Scatterboot stealing his touchdowns. Ian?
Right?
Can they just chill? I mean, they were getting killed at the end of that game, and Dable still running Dart into the line of scrimmage like a freaking madman out here. But hey, guess what? It's resulting in a ton of fantasy points. I have a graph in my Week 9 rankings column, which is free over at Fantasy Life, just looking at quarterback design, run rate, and scramble rate. And even if Dart maybe isn't the fastest quarterback in the league, obviously, fleet-footed and everything, but his rushing usage, guys, is literally up there with Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts, and Lamar Jackson. So we're seeing the floor, and honestly, that's been enough this year. He has been a legit, let's see, his starts this year, okay? He's finished as a QB 10, 19 in the last 3 weeks, 3, 2, and 12. So again, we've seen bad quarterbacks in the past, Taysom Hills and even Tim Tebow's of the world. Look at Justin freaking Fields, okay? Yeah, he does plenty, but he also booms. Jackson Dart, obviously more put together than those guys as a passer, and we're seeing the rushing upside take him up in the QB1 territory in Fantasyland.
Well, someone is asking Kyler versus Dart in the chat. I would play Dart even against Dallas. Like Kyler
play
against
Murray
Dallas.
one spot in front. I know what you meant. I'd play Murray just because against Dallas. If it was anybody else, I'd probably go Dart.
Do we think that Chuck is going to start for the Saints?
He threw a pick too. I mean, they opened the door, but I don't know. That might have been open the door. You're on notice, Rattler, and one more week. And if he does it again, then it's Chuck time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's kind of rare to see a quarterback get benched and then all of a sudden get the starting job back. But honestly, I was kind of surprised Rattler got benched in the first place. Yeah, he fell apart against the Bears the weeks before, and maybe it was just 6 straight, not great quarters for him. But only had a couple turnovers in the previous, 6 weeks before that. I thought, honestly, he's done a pretty good job getting Olave, Shaheed, and even Jawan Johnson the ball as much as possible. But end of the day, he's like 1-12 as a starter at this point. So probably just had to do something to try to change it up.
Defenses, to wrap this up before we get to your questions. If you have questions, you need to be a sub to Mayo Media Network, and you dump them in the chat right now so we can talk about them. I think the Rams are probably the best, that's why I asked, whether it's Rattler or whether it's Chuck. You probably want to play the Rams defense coming off of a bye week. Chargers at Tennessee is pretty good. The Lions against Minnesota and J.J. McCarthy, that sounds pretty good. The Packers against Carolina, I think those are like your big 4, and probably Denver at Houston as well, just because Houston cannot block, even though you're probably sans Surtain in this game, that they'll just generate enough pressure to get it going. After that, I mean, you just start your regular guys. If you need to go pick something up, I put this in the newsletter on Monday. Ian, I'll go to you first on it. The 2 desperation streaming defenses I had was Jacksonville at Vegas and San Francisco at the Giants. Every other available under 25% defense this week sucks.
No, I think you nailed it with the Jaguars. I was looking on ESPN yesterday, and because of the bye weeks, the Chargers and Rams are, I think, sub 40% rostered. So ideally, those would be the 2 I want. But the Jaguars, I mean, going into their bye, they actually have the second most takeaways in the league. They actually have a pair of obviously dope pass rushers. And then when you're playing Geno Smith and company, I get it. So decent enough schedule too, guys. You got the Raiders, Texans, Chargers isn't good, but then the Cardinals and Titans over these next 5 weeks for the Jaguars. So you actually could hold them a little bit if you need to. 49ers, I guess, man, but again, they did a great job against the Falcons and kind of threw me off the scent 2 weeks ago. But ever since they lost Fred Warner, this group has looked really, really rough out there. Obviously, Nick Bosa as well. So I would prefer the Jaguars if at all possible with the 49ers.
I would too, but Jake, it's just matchup at this point.
Oh, 100%. But the Jaguars at least potentially get turnovers, or they had been doing a good job of getting turnovers. I'd say if you're going a little bit higher out of the 25% range, I'd say Seattle for the potential turnovers in that game too. But that's really what we're chasing here. Is we're chasing pressure, as you always say, pressure and turnovers. And even with Jaden Daniels, I think there's a risk of turnovers in that game.
Yeah, someone's asking about rest of the season defenses. Does anyone...
Not a thing.
There we go.
Like the next 3 or 4 weeks, they're like next, you can chase a couple of weeks, but just the rest of the season, we see it. The injuries, things change so much. The Lions have a pretty good schedule coming up that you can chase them for a few weeks. And then you brought up the other one, the Rams. Both of them over the next couple of weeks are, I think, usable 4 out of 5 games the last time I checked. I think off the top of my head.
We were screaming about the Patriots during all of September. Like, hopefully you have them because you're still going to be good until like week 13.
Yeah, the Patriots have a great upcoming. Seattle has pretty good upcoming. Who else? San Francisco actually has a few. San Francisco's schedule gets a little bit easier. Let me just see fantasy defense-wise. Obviously, this week I do like...
Looking like the Rams have Saints, 49ers, Seahawks, Bucks, which is not the best, Panthers, Cardinals, and then they get the Lions in week 15. So there's a decent stretch there, which tells you about the Lions, because the Lions have Vikings, Commanders, at Eagles, not great, but then Giants, and then they get the Packers and Cowboys. So they're kind of hit or miss.
Yeah, the Niners are at the Giants this week, so I mean they're going to get dropped because they play the Rams and Cardinals the next 2 weeks. But after that, Panthers, Browns, Titans, back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about available ones. Like if you want to go pick up the Rams, I mean, go for it. But
I will say the one that's still somewhat available, and you're potentially going to get a good drop to remember in the future. So the Colts, which has been really good, they go to Pittsburgh and Atlanta, and then they're bye, and they come out of the bye in Kansas City. Everybody's going to drop the Colts because of the bye and in Kansas City, but they finish off with the Texans, Jaguars, Seahawks, 49ers, and Jacksonville again.
Yeah, if you go to 4for4.com, you can get the strength of schedule ratings for each position at the end. I just click to the top. Baltimore is actually the best rated. They only have one bad matchup, 2 great ones, 4 good ones.
They're getting healthy.
Yep.
I don't know if I trust them, though. Their defense still sucks.
Yeah, but they're getting healthy in the secondary, and that's where it's important.
I would say defensive line would be where they need to just get better, and that would be better for a fantasy defense.
They're like a good team, though, which is also one of the things we want to look for. I mean, that's been the problem with the Browns. Obviously, Myles Garrett and company can wreck any game, but then, like, how many freaking short fields can you defend when Dylan Gabriel's, working as a freaking jackass back there half the time? So, I don't know, man. I think the Colts call from Jake was pretty good. Chargers have a nice 3-week stretch, but, yeah, man, just chilling with the Patriots mostly.
Yeah, the Patriots are the look right now. The Bills, I know the Ed Oliver thing sucks, and they do have the Eagles and obviously the Chiefs this week. But if someone dropped them because of the Chiefs, outside of those 2 games, and I guess the Patriots, who are a pretty explosive offense now too, they play a couple cupcakes at the same time. I don't think people will drop the Bills, though.
No, probably not.
They probably should, because they're not very good at defense.
They can't stop the run.
No, that they cannot. Let's get a question in here. RJ Harvey or Kareem Hunt rest of the season?
Hunt, but Harvey, I think, has best case outside if something happens to Dobbins.
Agreed.
Bo Nix or Jackson Dart this week?
And who do you have higher? You have Nix higher.
Barely.
I would play Dart.
I don't blame you. Bo is... he's averaged over 7 yards per attempt in 2 games this year, and they came against the Cowboys and the freaking Bengals. Okay, so gotta see him do it against a real defense. Texans this week, I could see it. It's a tier.
It's a tough defense. He also had his touchdown insanity come back. 4 touchdowns in 2 straight games, but 2 of them were rushing against the Giants. And then, as you said, do you expect it against you? His yardage still isn't there. To your point, Ian, about the yardage overall, it's the touchdowns came back. So you could argue. I would say Dart's the safer floor. Nix has the higher ceiling.
Rob wants to know how much fab should he spend on Tyrone Tracy?
Whatever it takes.
Yeah. If you need a running back, empty the clip.
Yeah, we're at that point of the season, aren't we?
Yep.
All right, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience. Smash the like sub to the channel while you're here. Ian, let everyone know where to find your rankings outside of the link down in the description, which is very easy for people to find, and what you got going on this week.
Fun time as always, Pat and Jake. Thank you, Jake, and everyone else, share that love for actually going all the way with this mascot. I thought you were going to rip the head off after like 5 minutes. Must be hot underneath there, so kudos to you guys. But yeah, fantasylife.com. I got, free articles and some ranks as well that aren't too pricey. The Fantasy Life Show, YouTube, wherever you get you podcasts, 5 episodes a week. Always trying to have a good time over there. So yeah, good time, guys.
Jake, the podcast, the articles, everything at theathletic.com. You tell the people about it, okay?
Yeah, over at The Athletic. And if there's one thing you never question me about is commitment. I did an entire hour podcast in Batman voice years ago, and I couldn't talk the next day. I will always go full bore into this, just like the rankings. But the rankings, the fun ranks this week are the Halloween candy. So that's over there. And yes, the podcast. Oh, and Speed Run. You can find everywhere, including this podcast during the middle of the week for the long one, which you might even be listening to already there. So if you are, go check out Ian and Pat.
4for4.com/Mayo to get yourself either the weekly, the monthly, the annual for season long DFS, or everything with the betting package and tools as well. It's all over there for the level that you want to be at. Super cheap to get the fantasy one as well. That's all the research tools. And my rankings are free up there every single week, just like they're free in the Mayo Media newsletter to get them sent directly to you in your inbox. You can hit that down in the description right now. Join the list and go to substack.com. Mayo Media, and find it for free over there as well. Thank you all for watching. I'm Pat Mayo. I'll see you next time.